The ride receipt closed at 2:27 a.m. The drop-off street was ours. I'm not jealous of bodies, I'm jealous of itineraries. Bodies tell the truth if you stop staging them. Itineraries decide which truth arrives with a blue dot. At 2:27 a.m., my inbox glowed with the cheerful cruelty only algorithms have perfected. Your ride is complete. Passenger, Simon. Route, Lark and Lantern to Willow Row, 41 minutes, paid in full. The map smiled like a bruise. Willow Row is not where we live. It is where another man once told him, loud enough for me to overhear, "Stay over, I'll make breakfast." Simon had texted at 10:48, "Bored, wants one more drink. Don't wait up." He's fluent in the art of late-night choreography, the little plays you run for donors, the silence you wear when a director buys gin. At 7:05 I filmed the coffee because ritual is cheaper than religion and never arrives late. I captioned it here. He reacted with the thumbs up he saves for nights that plan to rename themselves. The receipt didn't rename anything, it confessed. The apartment rehearsed its neutrality. The radiator breathed like an amateur choir. The hall mirror performed being innocent. I boiled water because water never auditions. It boils, insists, and leaves you to decide whether heat is a question or an answer. The kettle sang the way a throat clears before telling you it already knows. At 3:11, the lock exhaled. Simon stepped in with his shoes hooked by two fingers like witnesses too tired to lie, jacket folded over his arm, collar undone as if he'd been rehearsing the word almost. He kissed the air near my cheek, our administrative truce, and then saw the receipt glowing on the counter like a clerk who likes its job too much. "You're up," he said, as if etiquette had mailed me a warning. "The app thinks you live on Willow Row now," I said. "It's very proud of your arrival." His pupils turned into clocks, the dilation that arrives just before he chooses a verb. He set the shoes down gently, as if returning rented ships, and put both palms on the table the way our therapist taught us when we needed to give words somewhere to land. The gesture is either dignity or triage. "Which question?" he asked. "Why or who?" "Why," I said, "because Matt, my emergency adult, kicks me under imaginary tables when I lead with names. If I start with who, the ride history writes our minutes." Simon looked at the patch of wall where the paint keeps threatening retirement. "Because the scene wouldn't land," he said. "Because donors clapped in the wrong places and demanded to be forgiven with gin. Because the bar turned the music up just when we needed to listen. Because Adrian, yes, Adrian, said his couch was better than silence and his building smelled like mercy. Because I wanted quiet and found a map instead." "Did you kiss him?" I asked, breaking Matt's superstition like a boy with a stick and a fence. "In the lobby," he said. "Once, small honest wrong, I came home." "I hate how sane that sounds," I said, the sentence I keep for mercy arriving before I can match its tone. We didn't sleep. We made a noon appointment with daylight because cities pretend to be merciful when you can see the stains. At Willow Row, the bricks looked smug, the kind of architecture that thinks forgiveness is structural. Adrian stood outside with a paper cup and the posture of a man prepared to pay for his verbs. He saw us both and didn't pretend surprise, my favorite trick in men who owe a room honesty. "I was coming to apologize," he said, "to you both and to whatever part of the map thinks it can flirt. He loves you," he added, nodding at Simon. "I like being near that. I'm sorry my apartment uses the same grammar as desire." "You don't get to call it ours," I said, "because cleverness is my superstition and I tithe when I'm anxious. Rehearsal is a room, a kiss is a scene, a receipt is a witness. You don't get to be the verb in our kitchen." Adrian lifted his hands like a man unarming himself. "Then let me be the stop sign," he said. At home, I moved the kitchen chair into the center of the room because procedures save men when gods won't. Simon smiled like a man relieved to be caught kindly. He came around the table and paused, always that pause, his most decent habit. I met him halfway. The first kiss carried the correct weight, apology without speeches. The second found his fingers under my shirt and my hand at the back of his neck, the place he keeps for oaths and sleep. We didn't conduct a ceremony. We used heat as a system. If I could map the rest without being evicted by a platform that prefers virtue louder than accuracy, I would. Keep the arithmetic, breath that belonged to both, a belt resigning with grace, a wrist pinned with permission and not claim. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. But the city prefers quizzes. 2 nights later, the bar's account posted a carousel at 1:41 a.m. Hand saw light in the restroom mirror, 4 bodies if you counted reflections. Simon washing his hands, head down. Adrian behind him, tie undone. A stranger carrying a pizza box. Me in the doorway because someone had tagged my name as if helpful were a synonym for harmless. The caption said boys being brave. Comments produced their usual certainty. I typed nothing. I turned the phone face down. I put the chair back in the middle and sat until the room remembered it wasn't a witness stand. Simon came home and handed me his phone without instructions. Delete or archive, he said. I don't want new grammar. You don't need me to erase your verbs, I said. He rested his forehead against mine like a paperweight on a better draft. 3 days later, an email with fonts that have never had to apologize to a kitchen arrived. Residency, 7 days, quiet rooms, kind windows. Simon forwarded the PDF with every map attached, which is how you know a man has learned where courage keeps its receipts. I want to go without disappearing, he wrote. I'll send pages, not alibis. When I get back, ask me what I wrote before what I did. I taped 2 lines under the lemon magnet because props still save us when gods are off shift. Addresses in the open. A good night here voice note every day. He added a third in his careful mess. If an I can't is coming, it happens where both of us are. Night 1, wind and a sentence I decided to believe. Today the table forgave me. Night 3, nothing, and my thumb became the worst teenager in the world. I opened the ride history. The last route sat there like a scar pretending it was a memory. I closed it. I moved the chair instead. At 8:12 he called with a voice that made the kettle think there might be a god. I almost kissed a window, he said. It didn't know your name. I closed the blinds. He came back with a suitcase that didn't slam and 2 pages he treated like animals. They're not good, he said. They're mine, I said. Then they're ours, and we performed our small religion. Paper, kettle, a room that knows it isn't a lobby. He slid his hands under my shirt from behind, slower than contrition, faster than nostalgia. Here, he said into the bend of my neck, which is the only word left that has never demanded witnesses. We tried boring. We failed gracefully. We tried again. Adrian learned to stand at the back of the house with his arms crossed like a man paying the bill he owes himself. He clapped exactly once after the intimacy rehearsal and didn't text. For a week, rides behaved like errands. Tests return because the world is thorough when it thinks you've studied. At 12:13 a.m., the app pushed, share your trip, trusted contacts, Adrian. The blue button glowed like a dare. I stared until the letters remembered they were just pixels. I pressed deny. The screen congratulated me on boundaries. At 12:59, the lock exhaled. Simon stepped in with rain in his hair and a sentence ready. He asked if I'd let him follow the ride, he said. I told him you're my only map. Do you want to hate me now or later? I prefer now. I like the way you come back from it. I'm tired of coming back, I said. I want to stay. He nodded, opened the app, and erased the contact. Not a spectacle, more like a man returning a key to a drawer that remembers its history. He touched my jaw with 2 fingers, the intimacy director's cue, repurposed for domestic faith, and for once the gesture belonged exactly where it landed. We went to bed without performing an essay on forgiveness. We used our mouths the way men do who still prefer heat to cleverness. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. Weeks alter even honest bruises. The map stopped offering Adrian's shortcuts. The city kept making rooms that want to pronounce us. I kept the kettle and the chair we move when words try to riot. On a Tuesday that didn't deserve it, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, a key fob stamped Willow Row, flattened and threaded with string. On the back, in handwriting I knew from scripts pinned to corkboards, I don't keep souvenirs, I keep systems. I hung it on the hook by the door, warning and graduation both. Tomorrow we'll try again. Receipts will wear confetti fonts. Apps will offer quizzes dressed as care. Adrian will exist where he exists, a person, not a villain. Donors will clap in the wrong places. The city will keep inventing nights that want to name us without asking. But when Simon says here, my body has stopped auditioning for suspicion. If another hour offers me a map with the kind of honesty nobody asked for, or a blue dot bending toward a door that isn't ours, I hope I remember the handful of humiliating, useful acts that got us through this one. Put water on. Move the chair when words try to riot. Ask why before who. Hold the breath before contact and let it finish being the scene. Then wait for the lock's small throat clearing like it's the first note in a song we can still tune to. We didn't get away with anything. We stayed. We are still staying. The ride app can keep its histories, the river can keep its absolutions, the lobby can keep its glass. We'll keep being the address. Or, on the nights we can't, the map that admits its misprints and still shows the way back. Past the revolving door that thinks it's a sentence. Past the elevator's red dot that loves its own memory. Into a kitchen where a chair knows what it's for. A kettle keeps its 7:05 appointment, and 2 hands that have done worse learn again how to touch without asking the night to edit.